We've been saying it all offseason for the last 3 weeks. How close are the Orlando Magic to the conference finals? Because of two players not so far away today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is May 22nd, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, a credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since 2012, somewhere in there. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we name our MVPs of the season. You know who they are. You know what we're going to talk about. Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner, the door that they have unlocked and when they should be ready to win. It's a lot sooner than you think. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. We truly appreciate all of our everydayers, people who listen to the podcast 5 days a week. You guys are awesome. You can check us out and any of the NBA teams on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. This is a theme that I am hitting home as many times as possible. I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of fans. Please hit me up at PhilipR_OMD at OMagicDaily. Hit me up on Facebook. Hit me up on the comments. I read and listen to all of you. And generally, look, we're a pessimistic bunch. It's a pessimistic world right now. No one wants to hear positivity. No one wants to hear, oh, the Magic were 41-41. That's a bad season. No one wants to hear me tell you, don't worry, it's not so bad. Look, the Magic were 41-41 this year because of their injuries. They could have matched last year's win total if they didn't get hurt. They could have easily surpassed last year's win total. They could have easily accomplished all their goals if they didn't get hurt. Now, again, I fully acknowledge that the Magic are still not where they want to be. You just have to watch the conference finals and see how dynamic the offenses of all four of these teams are, the way they're able to win in multiple ways, the way the Indiana Pacers are able to pull games out of their where. That's something the Magic don't have, and there's obviously another level the Magic have to reach. And one of the things that we learned in our playoff series with the Celtics, whether it should have happened in the second round or in the first round like it did, is the Magic still have work to do. We're not on that. The Magic are not on that level yet. But I'm here to tell you it's still not that far. Because for all the struggles and frustration that came out of this season, for all the things that didn't work, that left us with this bitter taste in our mouth, that makes it feel like that dream is so far away, the Magic learned one vital piece of information this season. The Magic picked up a critical piece of the puzzle. Probably the most critical piece of the puzzle. Because if you look back at the Rob Hennigan era, the Magic had all the role players. The Magic had all these had all these players who clearly were NBA players. There were some that were not. That clearly had quality NBA players that can contribute to winning teams. Aaron Gordon was an essential player for the Denver Nuggets the last 4 seasons. Critical to them winning a championship. Critical to them this season. Nikola Vucevic is still kicking it and helps the Bulls stay afloat in a lot of ways with his consistency. Tobias Harris, as we talked about on yesterday's show, vital piece to the Detroit Pistons. What the Magic didn't have in that early rebuild period, what they could never find through the draft, and again, criticize all that all you want, What they could never find was the galvanizing piece, the one that tied it all together, the one that put everyone in their proper roles, the sun around which everyone could orbit. And so, what did the Magic learn this year? Why is there optimism after a 41-41 season? Why does it feel like the Magic are still on the right path? The answer to that question is Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. At the end of the day, all that other stuff, all the frustrations about the offense and this player can't do that or this player, whatever, none of that matters because Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner established themselves this year as two all-stars. And the fact that Jeff Weltman, who's usually so conservative and so careful about what he says, came out in the plainest of terms, in the plainest of English, and said, we are making moves with a win now lens. We are no longer looking at development projects or anything like that. We need to make win now moves. He doesn't say that if he does not believe Paolo and Franz are the guys to lead this generation of the Magic. He does not say that if he does not believe that Paolo and Franz are true all-star players. Players who can elevate this team to a different stratosphere. And so that is the ultimate takeaway of the season. And it's why, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are our team MVPs for the season. Because everything that they do, everything this Magic team does, revolves around them. And when the chips were down, when everything had to happen, they stepped up. From a statistical standpoint, this was a career season for both. Paolo Banchero averaged 25.9 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game. Wagner averaged 24.2 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, and 4.7 assists per game. They are the first pair of Magic players to average 20 points per game in the same season. In the playoffs, they both upped their numbers. Banchero to 29.4 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game. Wagner to 25.8 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per game. Now, both players obviously still have work to do. All the criticisms about Paolo's efficiency, they're fair. In the playoffs, he left a lot of points on the free throw line. If you're going to get to the line that much, you got to make them. Got to be 75, 80% from the line. He's low 70s at this point. But his three-point shooting has come a long way over the last 3 years. Franz Wagner, of course, his three-point shooting is as big of a mystery as anything else. And those are things that are going to unlock them. The Magic are only going to go as far as those players take them. And so, yes, it's not a time to rest on your laurels and say, you're all-stars, you're good, you're perfect, don't do anything, don't change. It's still, Paolo has to improve his efficiency, his decision-making. Franz has to improve his three-point shooting, his decision-making. It's constant improvement. They're 22 and 23 years old, guys. They're going to get better. But the Magic could also see what their strengths were. And that they are, especially in the playoffs, the way that they both played, that they are players that can carry this movement forward. It's not even just that. Look, they both suffered major injuries for the first time in their careers. They both had to deal with the uncertainty of recovery and doing it in the middle of a season. Banchero struggled throughout January. We all saw it. We all felt it. We were all frustrated by it. But he struggled and had to find his way out. And a lot of us were like, look, you could tell he's a step slow. You could tell he's trying to get himself back. It's not there yet. That's fine. That's okay. Eventually, he did find it. After the All-Star break, Banchero averaged 29 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and 4.5 assists per game, shooting 47.3% from the floor. So take that for efficiency. When Banchero was out, Wagner stepped up. In the month between Banchero's injury and Wagner's injury, Wagner proved he could be the leading man, averaging 26.1 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 6.3 assists per game. Magic went 13-7 in those 20 games. They proved vital. They proved they could carry the burden. They proved they are stars. And the only reason Paolo or Franz were not all-stars this year, because the Magic were good enough at the break, was because of their injuries. The only reason Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero are not all NBA players and costing the Magic a lot more money is because of their injuries. So when are they ready? That's the bigger question. The conference finals are proving that time is coming a lot sooner. We'll get to that. Talk about the conference finalists coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or breakout player, there has never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Probably a roller coaster ride if you were looking at that game last night between the Indiana Pacers and New York Knicks. So FanDuel helps you track those trends, track which players are getting hot, which live prop bets, it helps you you could really do anything at FanDuel. It's great. If you got to read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same game parlay? How could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? That's the beauty of FanDuel. You can go check out their latest playoff odds, which I'm sure are changing daily, get set for game 2s in the conference finals, and more. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This is the ultimate question then. We know Paolo and Franz are future stars and future perennial all-stars in this league. We know that they are of that level. And again, if that's the only thing we learned this season, great. The question is, when do the Magic have to feel the urgency to take advantage of that? Obviously, that urgency has begun because Paolo and Franz are both max-level players. The Magic are starting to feel the financial crunch. We talked about that a few days ago. There is definitely an urgency to compete and to win immediately. Now, it's still going to be a process. I want to make this clear. The Magic still have to win a playoff series. And once you win a playoff series, anything can happen, I suppose. But it still feels like the Magic are a year or two away from true contention in the East. But for those of us that remember the Dwight Howard days, contention comes quickly. When you get good quick. Just like when you get bad quick. And what is unsettling about the season the Magic has had, as much as we can blame injuries for it, is now the Magic have to back up who they are. Are they the 41-41 team that's destined for the play-in ringer? Or are they the team that everyone believed could be a top 4 seed, could be a contender? And a lot of people still believe that. It's like no one's abandoning ship after that year. But next year's huge because the Magic have to prove things to themselves. And the bottom line is this. If you look at the conference finalists, if you look at the teams that are playing today, their windows are open quicker than ever. Like I mentioned, Paolo Banchero is 3 years into his career at 22 years old. Franz Wagner is 4 years into his career at 23 years old. They have both put up crazy playoff numbers against a quality defense in the Boston Celtics. They are both players who should be talked about in this group of best young players in the league. Why they're not, I don't know. When you look around the rest of the league, you see the Magic are not far off from that window. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, your MVP of the NBA, is in his 7th season at 26 years old. Anthony Edwards, Minnesota Timberwolves, 2nd straight conference finals, is in his 5th year at 23 years old. Tyrese Halliburton is in his 5th year at 24 years old. Jalen Brunson, the only outlier in this group, but still not that much of an outlier, 7th season at 28. Essentially, the window to make the conference finals, but the way that the league is set up now with players younger and younger, is really in the next year or two. And look, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown aren't going anywhere. Donovan Mitchell isn't going anywhere. Nikola Jokic isn't going anywhere. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going somewhere, but his team is still a threat. But the bottom line is this. When you look around the league, when you look at the teams that are still playing today, there is no reason for the Magic to believe they can't be a conference finalist or they shouldn't be a conference finalist within the next 2 seasons. Everyone else is doing it. Those teams are going to get older. They'll get more expensive. They'll start to break apart. That's the reality of the league these days. With the way the CBA is constructed. Other teams will rise. Other teams will fall. The Magic have to worry about running their own race. I'm a big preacher of that. Don't get caught up on what other teams are doing. The Magic have to get better. The Magic have to get better, play their own game, and if they do that, they'll give themselves a chance. But that's it. That's the rub. That's the thing. The Magic have the stars, and those stars are competing at higher levels earlier and earlier in their careers. I'm not here to put pressure on Paolo and Franz other than the normal pressure that you got to put on star players. I'm here to put pressure on the Magic front office because the window to compete is now. Those teams that are in the conference finals, they didn't wait. They didn't wait for their turn. They went out and took it. The Thunder got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, got all those draft picks that they had. Like they're using all of their assets to their maximum to make their star better. The Pacers traded for Tyrese Halliburton, believing in a different vision for their team, and then carefully built a roster that maximizes his strengths. They made big trades to get their team over the hump, to fill those weaknesses and fit their style. The New York Knicks signed Jalen Brunson in free agency. And ever since then, they have been carefully crafting an identity and a group to match him, to match his skills. The Minnesota Timberwolves made the wild trade for Rudy Gobert, highly criticized. They're in the conference finals for the 2nd straight year. But all of those teams don't go anywhere if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't become an MVP candidate. If Anthony Edwards doesn't become the best young player in the league, essentially. If Tyrese Halliburton doesn't transform an identity within the Indiana Pacers. If Jalen Brunson doesn't become what he becomes. The Magic have a lot of work to do. We're going to talk about that work in a minute. But it's going to start with Paolo and Franz getting better and not feeling restricted by their roster, first off, but not feeling restricted by their age. Age is just a number, and you're going to go through growing pains. The Thunder went through growing pains in their series against the Nuggets. You're going to go through some growing pains, but it shouldn't matter. The window for the Magic to compete for championships next year feels a little soon. 2027, though, that door has to be open because there are going to be more young players coming in. You know, Wembanyama is going to get his turn. Cooper Flagg is going to get his turn. The Magic have to grab their opportunity. And like we said, because of the Jason Tatum injury, the East feels wide open. It feels wide open. And so if I'm Paolo and Franz, I am working all summer to get better, to get to this level where I am an undeniable star in this league. Because they've proven they can play in the playoffs. I'm not worried about what Paolo and Franz are going to do every postseason. Like, look, Franz had an up and down postseason in 2024, bounced back really strong in 2025. He's got to back that up you always got to back yourself up. But I have no reason to be concerned about Franz. Certainly no reason to be concerned about Paolo. Paolo was made to play in the playoffs. And we'll get to it probably next week. I'll explain why I think Jamal Mosley's kind of bored to coach in the playoffs too. I'm going to defend Mose like crazy. Like, frankly, some of the criticism I've seen Mose are just like, well, what do you want him to do? The Magic have the stars in place. And again, you go as far as your stars take you. If those two get better, this championship window is going to open very, very quickly. And again, as your conference finalists are proving, that window is going to open sooner than everybody thinks. It should absolutely be during their extensions. The next 4 years, the Magic should be competing for championships, because if they're not, that's when you get into the trouble that I think a lot of Magic fans are fearing. And that puts the urgency on Jeff Weltman. Why this is a summer to be aggressive and improve the role players. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. I mentioned earlier how each of the 4 conference finalists made moves to improve their roster, to build their culture, and to elevate them to this level. The Oklahoma City Thunder, for all the good things that they have done and the model that everyone wants them to be, they lost in the conference final and the conference semifinals last year to the Mavericks. And they looked at their roster and they traded a player on a rookie contract in Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. They were aggressive in free agency, going after a player that a lot of people thought the Magic might go after in Isaiah Hartenstein. They found a way to get that deal done and bolster one of their big weaknesses, their rebounding. You look at them now, Alex Caruso was essential in Game 7 against the Nuggets. And obviously, they just have all this depth because their drafting is so smart. You got to draft well, especially in the new cap environment. You can't miss on draft picks. Like, that honestly, like, what killed Denver as much as anything, and I know Peyton Watson had a big Game 6, they invested in Zeke Naji when they shouldn't have. Their draft picks haven't been good enough. But again, one of the reasons, but they've been good in some ways because, they let Kentavious Caldwell-Pope walk because they had a lot of faith in Christian Brown. I'm going to talk draft stuff tomorrow. We're going to talk draft history and how the Magic have to get the draft right and how they haven't been as effective at it as they need to be. We're going to get to that tomorrow. We'll talk Anthony Black, Tristan Da Silva, Jet Howard tomorrow. You look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Big trade for Rudy Gobert. They swapped Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. I think that's the underrated part of this. They were unafraid to be ruthless and swap beloved players to get guys that would help them in the playoffs, improve their depth, but not compromise their culture. The Pacers, they obviously traded for Tyrese Haliburton. They traded for Pascal Siakam last year to help give them some championship experience and some defense. And look, Indiana's defense is far from perfect, but it's been good since January. Since January, it's been near elite, and obviously it's been good enough for what their offense is able to give them. The Knicks, after losing in the conference semifinals last year, went all in on Mikal Bridges, 5 first-round picks, and then made the Karl-Anthony Towns swap to bolster an offense that was already pretty strong. The point is this: support matters. You've got to have the right role players in place. And as much as anything, what enhances a team, what elevates a team from first round to second round to conference finals to finals is how you build the support for your stars. Because if your star doesn't play well, you're not advancing. Just plain and simple. You're only getting further into the playoffs if you have players that can make others pay for the attention they give to the stars. And look, it's not rocket science. The Magic supporting players just weren't good enough in the playoffs this year. And would Jalen Suggs have helped? Absolutely. Would Mo Wagner have helped? Absolutely. But when you look back at that series with the Celtics, Paolo and Franz each scored 25 points per game. Wendell Carter was the only other guy to score in double figures. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope shot sub 30% from three. Worse than that. Orlando as a team shot sub 30% from three. And it's just impossible to win at the highest levels playing like that. We've started our Locked On mock draft. I put out all the feelers. I'm getting a sense of what the market's looking like. If the Locked On GMs act the way that they're acting, the Magic have a chance to be very aggressive. And like I said, I am expecting three moves this offseason, three significant moves this offseason. A trade to add a starting level point guard to the roster, a trade to upgrade Gary Harris's spot, and a trade to upgrade Cole Anthony's spot. And if you just do that, you should improve your offense because you'll just have better shooting and playmaking. And that could elevate the team, and then you can start addressing other needs as needed. Now, you might have to work around some stuff. You might have to give up Jonathan Isaac and then find another big wing to fill that spot. Maybe that's in the draft through Rasheer Fleming, through Yaxel Lendeborg if he stays in the draft. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts here. But this is a summer where the Magic must be aggressive. The Magic must be willing to potentially take a risk to add a transformative player to the roster, whoever that may be. Because Orlando has this opportunity. That is abundantly clear. The Magic have the top-end talent and the opportunity to be elite, to be among the best teams in the league. And they can squander that opportunity if Paolo and Franz don't have the help they need. If they don't have the offensive help they need. The defense is going to be there. Maybe it won't be second best in the league. It doesn't have to be. If the offense carries its weight, the defense doesn't have to carry so much either. And so this summer is not about Paolo and Franz. Paolo and Franz are great. Get better, but they're great. This summer is about improving those role players to enhance and push Paolo and Franz forward, to make their lives easier so that they can be great for longer and they can pick their spots when they have to carry the load. Some nights they're going to need that, but it shouldn't be every night. And obviously, yes, getting Jalen Suggs back, getting Mo Wagner back is going to help a lot with that too. But clearly the Magic need some more support. They need some more depth. They need some more offensive depth as much as anything. And that's going to be the step forward this season. The Magic have their MVPs. Now let's go find a sixth man of the year. Let's go find a defensive player of the year. Let's go find the guys that are going to make them even better. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You, of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all information podcasts to your podcast-enabled device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. Thank you all for getting us past 4,000 subscribers. So appreciative of that. If you missed yesterday's episode, go check it out. I talked with Kahil of Locked On Pistons about next steps for the two best young teams in the Eastern Conference. Check that out again on our archives, or you can go to Locked On Pistons. Give me the hit, but you can check that out wherever you download podcasts. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. I'm doing my player evaluations over there. You can find that there at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NBA Big Board Show. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's good to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On tomorrow's episode, we're going to chat about the Magic's recent draft history. Anthony Black, Tristan Da Silva, Jet Howard. We will talk about where the Magic have gone right, where the Magic have gone wrong, and why those picks are suddenly very important. We'll get to all that on our Draft Friday episode of Locked On Magic. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Prosper Knight. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.